Hello, everybody. Hi, everyone. Hey, it's Billy. It's Billy Eichner. I'm about to go live with Andrew Yang, everyone. I'm gonna go grab him right now. We're waiting for Andrew Yang. He ran for president. Oh, there he is!
Hey, Billy, how are you? Hello.
How are you, Andrew?
For president.
Sorry, slight connection problem. Sorry you froze there for a second. How are you?
I'm doing great. We are this close, Billy. We're going to vote this guy out, vote Joe and Kamala in. Civilization will be somewhat restored. We're
Andrew,
this close.
Andrew, I don't know what we're going to do if we don't. I mean, luckily I live on the 14th floor, so I can jump off my ledge. But I'm just kidding, everyone. Just kidding. Can you hear me okay? Oh, there you
You look good from my end.
Okay,
You're
thank you.
mobile,
Thank you.
unfrozen.
Thank you. Yeah. My hair is a little high today. Sorry about that. But yes, we are. I know we're so close. We're so close to election day. I think we're 12 days away, which is really remarkable after all we've been through for 4 years. It's great to see how many people are voting early. But I think we just, and I know people get exhausted from hearing about it, but we just can't overstate how much every vote counts, right? Um,
Especially if you live in Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Florida, Wisconsin. I'm going to throw some fun ones in there like Texas,
yes, Georgia.
Georgia,
Yes.
North Carolina,
Iowa. Iowa.
Iowa.
Yes. So, and I'm sure people in those states are getting inundated with people on both sides screaming at them to vote. But like, really, I mean, I'm just going to say, I think 4 more years of what we've been through it's almost hard to fathom. Like, I don't, it's incomprehensible. We just deserve a better life than that. Like, I really do think that's true on a day-to-day level, and also obviously in terms of the policies that are being enacted. We just saw announced the other day, and there's so much news that it's getting lost, but I think over 500 kids that were separated from their parents at the border, they can't find the parents. The Trump administration
Awful.
cannot find their parents, and even the judge didn't know what to do. And he literally said, he gave the ACLU all the information and said, you guys go do it, because we don't know how to find their parents. And
It's
so
awful. Yeah.
I don't know what more people need to know. And yet it's going to be a very, very tight race, especially in those swing states that you mentioned. So what I want to talk to you about today, and thank you so much for being here, really appreciate it, is I want to talk specifically about the economy. And I know you are an expert in this, and you know way more about this than I do, and then a lot of people do. And one thing I've noticed is that people, when you look at the polls, and I know hard to trust polls, but when you look at the polls, when you look at when they ask people who can we trust more about the economy, on almost every subject, people say they can trust Biden more. Who do you trust more when it comes to dealing with COVID? Who do you trust more when it comes to climate change? Who do you trust more when it comes to picking a Supreme Court justice? Who do you trust more when it comes to healthcare? Biden, 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 by a fairly wide margin. And then when it comes to the economy, those numbers get a lot closer,
Yep.
right? And,
Yep.
you know, say what you will about him, and I think he is a profoundly evil, diabolical man. But Trump has 30 years of branding himself as this great businessman, which we now know, based on his taxes and everything else, we know is a complete fraud and a lie. And the vast majority of his businesses have been complete and utter failures, right? And yet it's 30 years of Trump, along with The Apprentice, and everything else, and the media branding him as this great businessman. And I think a lot of people just have that in their brains, and they just think that he is, even if all the evidence is to the contrary. I will say
part of
yeah,
that,
please.
Billy. Part of that, Billy, is just party affiliation. Is that people? If you just put an R next to someone's name and a D next to someone else's name, like the R would get some extra credit on the economy. Whether that's justified or not, you could argue it's not.
Yeah.
But that's just been a traditional strength by association on that side of things.
Right. Absolutely. And I do want to say, though, to give Biden credit, the most recent polls I've seen, he's closed that gap. So in terms of who people are looking to restore the economy after COVID, Moody's economic survey came out. A number of highly reputable economic surveys have come out saying that Biden's economic plans will actually be better for the economy and create more jobs. And so I think it's like 50-50 now. So and I'll shut up now because you should be talking and I shouldn't be talking. So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts about Biden's economic plan? And if we are, fortunate enough to have Biden and Harris elected in just a couple of weeks, what are you looking forward to when they get into office in terms of the economic policies or any policies that they will enact?
You just pointed out the main difference, Billy, which is that Joe and Kamala actually have a plan. Like anytime someone asks Trump, like, what's the plan for the second term? Like, no one knows.
Right.
So the Biden-Harris plan, it's multifaceted because right now the coronavirus and the economic recession are very much tied together. You have depressed demand because of the coronavirus, and you can't really address one without the other. If you look at our own behaviors, why are we not going to the movies? I mean, maybe some of you are, but like at lower levels, or why are fewer people going to the movies, going to bars, going to visit their families in other states? It's because we all feel like with the coronavirus active, then it's hard to do those things. And then it's very hard for those businesses to reopen. It's very hard for them to hire folks and invest in growth and the rest of it. So Joe's got a massive lead on the coronavirus and the handling thereof, which then blends into more confidence in. I'm part of their small business and entrepreneurship council, and they've got a $150 billion plan to try and put money directly in the hands of small business owners, try and help keep those restaurants and stores doors open. And then they have plans for infrastructure. They have plans for student loan debt. They have plans on testing. They have plans on all sorts of components of the economic recovery. The big thing that I'm excited about for their administration is that they're not going to be afraid to invest big in things that we've needed for a long time, but right now would create jobs, would create economic activity, create growth. So that's addressing climate change, investing hundreds of billions in infrastructure, things that would have value regardless of the fact that we need jobs created and we need to prop up the economy. But now it's a no-brainer. Now it's like, well, if you're ever going to do it, now would be the time when you have a lapse in demand that the government needs to fill.
Right. All excellent points and accurate points. I'm looking forward to all of that as well. I mean, the economy right now, needless to say, suffering so much, especially small businesses, because of COVID. And you have a president and an administration and a Mitch McConnell-led Senate, which have let over 220,000 Americans die. And the cases I've been reading today are increasing. The CDC is saying they're seeing a 75% increase in COVID rates all over the country, including in everywhere from, deep red states to blue states. It's affecting everyone now. We're not getting a vaccine until next year, right? And we don't know when next year, but that's still a long time.
And even Billy, like even if they had the vaccine next winter, it would take a lot of time to distribute. There are many Americans who frankly might not actually get the vaccine. The vaccine is not going to be 99.9% effective. It might be 70 to 80% effective.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to know that there's no light switch for this coronavirus crisis, that there are going to be waves of inoculation, just like there have been waves of infection.
Mm-hmm. And you can't save the economy post-COVID if you refuse to deal with the fact that COVID is real. That COVID is still a problem. You've got Trump going out giving his stump speech every night now that he's doing his super spreader rallies again, where he's saying that we're rounding the corner on COVID. But all the other information we're getting all day long, the actual facts are showing us that that's not the case at all. You have colder weather coming to the vast majority of the country. People aren't going to have as many ways to get outdoors. And so everyone's going to be staying in. All roads lead to increasing COVID cases. So he's lying about what's happening with COVID, and that's going to have a direct impact on the economy. It's pretty obvious. I'm not that bright, and even I understand that.
Didn't you go to Northwestern, Billy? I feel like some very, very bright people came out of there.
I did go to Northwestern, but Andrew, I was a theater major. So let's keep it all in perspective.
That's good to know. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. One day when you can do theater again, that'll come in handy. I want to talk about taxes, right? I think, there's concern even among my rich liberal friends who would rather throw themselves in front of a bus than vote for Trump. But, they're certainly going to vote for Biden no matter what. But there is some concern that, we're going to pay more in taxes if Biden gets elected. No matter how many times Biden says, I'm not raising taxes for anyone that makes under $400,000 a year. He said it over and over and over again. But, the right-wing media gets a hold of this information. Social media gets a hold of it. There's so much disinformation circulating on Facebook and Reddit and on Twitter and all over. So people are worried about their taxes, though. So what can you tell us about Biden's plan, and should working people, middle-class people, be concerned?
You just said it. Joe said it over and over again. I've seen the plan. It does not raise taxes unless you're making over $400,000 a year, which puts you in that's a very, very rarefied zone of income. It's pretty close to the top 1%. So if you are making over $400,000 a year, congratulations. You're doing pretty well. You could probably afford to pay an extra few bucks to help keep us all heading in a positive direction. Mm-hmm. If you're making less than that, which is the vast majority of us, then you have nothing to worry about, because the plan does not affect you unless you happen to just hit it big in a particular year. And even right. It would just be like a one-time thing for you in that case. So that the other thing, and for context, excuse me, let me get this door. One of my boys is trying to play an instrument.
Oh, yeah, please.
Is that to the extent that the Trump economy was strong pre-COVID, it was in large part because they crammed through a $1.5 trillion tax cut that disproportionately benefited large corporations and their shareholders, which is primarily the rich. So if you're looking at it, we kind of had this sugar high from an irresponsible tax cut. And so trying to right that and balance it out with some kind of reasonable tax rate for people who are making the most, that would be more in line with, frankly, most of our history. If you look at the tax rate on the top band of income earners, they're kind of anomalously low right now. So even what Joe's suggesting for folks who are making a lot of money is more in line with historical norms. than the period we're in right now. So if that makes your rich friends feel any better, Billy, be like, hey, you know, you're going to be paying the same levels that you might have been paying in like the 90s or something, or something like that.
You know what, Andrew? You're way richer than me, but I'm rich, and I am happy to pay taxes because I just feel like it's our responsibility. Like I'm lucky to have this money, you know, and I'm not trying to sound like some martyr or any Pollyanna or anything, but like I don't need a fucking yacht, right? And I certainly don't have millions and millions of dollars, and I certainly don't have $1 billion, you know. But I don't know. I'm happy to pay. I just feel like that's part of your responsibility as an American, because there was a time in my life I didn't have this money and I needed those resources and I needed state subsidized health insurance. And, you know, and we all make use of the things that they throw around socialism, but like, and I'm certainly not the first person to make this argument, but like, hello, rich people are okay with the fire department because it affects them, because they think, well, I need that. But when it comes to subsidizing other things that they might need, that working class people need or poor people need, all of a sudden they don't want to pay taxes. All I'm saying is I'm a great person, Andrew, who's willing, ready and willing to pay my share.
I too am a great person, Billy. I'm kidding. I mean, if that's the definition, then I'm totally on board.
Yes. Okay. Good. Well, it's part of it. Part of it. I'm terrible in any number of ways, but I'm willing to pay my share in taxes. We only have 10 minutes left.
How did
I want
time
to talk
fly
to you about
so fast?
something.
That's crazy. How did time fly so fast, Billy? That seems crazy to me.
You know
where I'm going after this?
Where?
I'm going to head to CNN to do some commentating on this debate, this last debate.
I can't with the debate. Let me tell you about the debate. The debate is complete and utter bullshit, right? I don't know why. I'm glad you're going on TV. You know, I wish I could get back on TV. I'm stuck on Instagram Live, Andrew Yang. But so much for my Northwestern theater degree. But no. The debate. Watch the debate if you want. This is just my humble opinion, not Andrew Yang's opinion. But you know, I get so much more out of the one-on-one town halls because it's not like this wrestling match. You actually hear them speak. You know, you want to know what Joe Biden's policies are before you start complaining about them, go to his website. I was on it last night for an hour just reading about his environmental policies and racial justice. They're all there in detail. So just go to his website. I mean, you can watch them yell at each other tonight if you want to, because that's like a fun spectacle. But anyway, didn't mean to get up on that tangent.
If people want to do something other than watch the debate, more power to you. As long as you're doing something productive that makes you happy.
I agree.
And a couple points I wanted to make. Joe Biden was not your first choice. You supported Elizabeth Warren during the primaries.
I did. I'm sorry, Andrew.
Totally fine. Totally fine.
I'm still an ally. I think you're fantastic, and I support you.
No, I'm just making this point. Like, Joe Biden was not my first choice. I was my first choice.
I heard you voted for Mayor Pete. That's what I heard. I'm just kidding.
It does not matter now. We just have to get behind Joe and Kamala and turn the page for our country. And there is a time when, like, ironic detachment, I get it. It's like, you know, like a lot of this stuff is very, very easy to just want to turn off and, you know, get it out of your way. This is not that time. This is the time to go to iwillvote.com, make your voice heard. I voted earlier this week. It is pretty easy because of the vote by mail provisions. I don't know, Billy, did you get your ballot?
I got my ballot. I'm in the middle of figuring it out because, you know, I'm a nerd and I do research on all the local races and all those things. So I'm in the process of filling mine out, and then I'm going to go drop it off here in California.
But like, it's really like you get that mail-in ballot. Like it was, including even with the homework Billy's doing, it's pretty easy and it's kind of fun. Like you really feel like you're doing something, filling that in. So definitely vote. You know, there are even, I think, a couple places where you can like register in person. Like, you know, that there isn't like a situation where you necessarily need to plan weeks in advance everywhere. But make your voice heard because we're going to have record turnout around the country, but we need you to vote. This could be a very closely contested election in some of the swing states, like Billy said.
It's going to be very close. I don't trust the polls. You know, I hope they're right, but I don't trust them. Every vote is going to count, especially in Pennsylvania, 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 please come through for us. Florida, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona. We really, really need every single vote. But even if you're in a very blue state like me in California, it's still important because, you know, we want that popular vote out there too. We want to show this president and Mitch McConnell, this administration, how many millions and millions of people don't believe in what they've done to the country and don't support it. I want to ask you one more question about the economy, and it's actually something that Trump brought up in his one of many bizarre appearances that he made, this one with Savannah Guthrie on NBC, which I refused to watch in real time because I thought NBC was horrible for putting that on right up against Biden. They lost the ratings anyway, but I watched some clips after. Savannah Guthrie was asking him about, you know, Amazon, Netflix, a lot of these huge corporations that we all use, liberal, Republican, whatever you are, we all use those things, and they don't pay a dime, right? They're not paying their fair share in taxes at all. And when Savannah Guthrie asked Trump about that, he said, well, if you start to tax those places, they're going to leave. They're going to leave America, and they're going to go to China, and they're going to go to places that are cheaper to do business in. And I think a lot of people, whether that's accurate or not, I think a lot of people watch that and say, you know what, he's right, right?
He's not right.
So tell us why he's wrong.
So you have to examine why Amazon and Netflix are paying zero in taxes. And the reason they're paying zero in taxes, they're playing shell games with the different tax rates in different countries. They're piping their earnings through Ireland, which essentially has set itself up as like a tax haven internationally. And a lot of these tech companies have parked billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars in other parts of the world. And they're just like, we're not going to bring it here because you're going to make us pay taxes on it. So this is essentially like a giant accounting game. Is it breaking the rules? No, it's not. Are our rules stupid? Yes. And so if you're Netflix, the United States is still one of your very, very top markets. Do you really think that Netflix, Reed Hastings and his entire team are going to say, you know what? We don't like our paying like any kind of reasonable tax rate on our operations here. Are they really gonna like transplant themselves to like another country? Of course not. Like all of these American firms have been paying taxes for years and decades, and it's not like there's been this mass exodus of American companies to other parts of the world. And in every other developed country, they already have something called a value-added tax that would apply to these companies' operations anyway. It's not like you're going from a tax environment to a zero tax environment. If anything, we're the only country that's the zero tax environment. You know what I mean? So it makes no sense. Like Trump answered reflexively because he's wired that way himself, but that's not the way business works. That's not the way the international tax system works. And of course, we should be taxing Amazon and Netflix at some level and then take that money and then do something positive with it. Like I'm going to suggest, put that money directly into the hands of struggling American families. Like that would be, to me, a great place to put the money. It's like one of those like Trumpian answers that sounds reasonable and convincing to a subset of people, but is bullshit if you actually scratch the surface even a little bit.
Well, and the reason people just accept it, it's because he says it with a lot of conviction and a lot of charisma, and he's branded himself as this businessman, and people don't do the research, right? And sometimes I don't do it. You get busy, you know, with your own life, and so you just accept whatever you're hearing, whether it's from Trump or on Facebook or whatever it is, as fact, which is why I'm so thankful that you took this time today to talk to us and give us the real facts. I also wanted to mention, you know, Biden has a great plan for decreasing student loan debt, which Trump and McConnell don't care about at all. I've said many times, I did go to Northwestern and I loved it, but it was a very expensive school. And that was 20 years ago. It was expensive then. I can't imagine what it costs.
It's more expensive now. You and I aren't quite contemporaries, pretty close. But it's like 200% more expensive now. And I just did a student loan voter event for Joe and Kamala, and they've got a multifaceted plan to forgive your loans if you are making below a certain amount, or if you're in public service. They want to get the cost down for 2 year for public education. They want to double Pell Grants. They're very serious about trying to minimize the burden for folks who are laboring under the $1.6 trillion and counting of student loan debt. And when you and I were graduating, like at the end of the 90s, student loan debt, if you totaled it up for the entire country, Billy, was about 100 billion. So it's gone up 16x in the last 20 years.
That is insane. I've told this story before, like as a funny anecdote on talk shows, but it's not funny. I literally had student loan debt, and I loved Northwestern. I mean, to this day, all my close friends are still my Northwestern friends, with the exception of a handful. It was the greatest experience of my life, but I was paying for it until I was 32 years old.
32 is nothing, man. I'm like, I'd buy it for lower than that. Like,
hold on. The only reason I was able to pay it off at 32 is because I got my own TV show. And it's one of the first things I did. And I always say the fact that I had to get my own television show in order to pay off my college loan just shows you how fucked up it is, right?
Yeah, that's nuts. That's not obviously a recipe for success that's replicable to, like the vast majority of people.
No, it's not. Although now you have like 15-year-old influencers making way more than I do. But okay, I won't complain, Andrew. Thank you so much for this. I think we've hit our time limit here. I could talk to you a long time. I hope we get to talk again. I think the main message I wanted to leave people with is that please don't fall for this complete and utter nonsense that Trump is a great businessman who's going to save us after COVID. He doesn't even acknowledge COVID as a problem. And by all accounts, Biden is going to do so much more for students, for working class families, middle class people. And again, if you're hearing anything to the contrary, whether it's from 50 Cent or whoever who's been complaining, we've said it over and over again. Biden is not going to raise taxes for anyone making less than $400,000 a year. That's just accurate. That is his plan. So thank you so much, Andrew. Everyone, please vote. Early voting is underway. We didn't get to this, but Trump is also trying to kill the Affordable Care Act. He's trying to kill health care for anyone with pre-existing conditions. He also happens to be a white supremacist in his spare time. So just tons of things we could have talked about.
If enough of us vote, I've got a great feeling about election night and thereafter, because we might not know the night of. But I was just campaigning in Pennsylvania, and there are a lot of people I want to turn the page. If we all just do our work, get the message out, we vote at record numbers, because turnout's looking like it's going to be tremendously high. Again, imagine if turnout's tremendously high, like a record, and you didn't vote. What kind of schmuck do you have to be? So get out and vote.
Yes,
and if enough of us vote, I think we're on track to win and turn the page.
Thank you.
We're gonna have to get out there.
I so hope you're right. And yes, this is history. You're part of history, people. This is a year they're going to write about in history books long after we're all gone. The message I will leave us with is I truly do think years from now, whether he wins or not, I think your kids, your grandkids, you yourself will ask yourself, what did I do to help stop Trump? Right? What did I do to help stop this white supremacist? What did I do to help stop this man who wouldn't acknowledge a pandemic that's killed over 220,000 Americans? And yes, it's important to vote, but also you could be phone banking. There's other ways to get involved between now and election day. And I really hope everyone does. Andrew, thank you so much for your time.
No problem, Billy. Stay safe. Let's go. Let's win. We're going to win.
Let's do this.
As long as we do it, as long as we vote, we're going to win. Bye, everyone.
Bye.